Let's shift to America's rivals now, Russia and China. What are they up to? There's a flurry of diplomacy happening between Moscow and Beijing. Presidents Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping met virtually today. They were waving and smiling like high school buddies. But is there more to this relationship? Is it only about taking on the US, or does the China-Russia relationship have other meaningful intentions? The chemistry is certainly there. Both Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping know how to put on a show. You may remember their famous ice cream date, or the time Xi Jinping called the Russian president his best friend. Well, that chemistry was on full display today. Take a look.
Dear President Xi Jinping, dear friend, I am glad to see you. I am greeting you. I am glad to have a chance to get in touch with a direct video call. This allows us to thoroughly discuss Russian-Chinese relations, full-scale partnership and strategic interaction. Dear friend, dear President Xi Jinping, next February I expect we can finally meet in person in Beijing as we have agreed. We will hold talks and then participate in the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympic Games. I am grateful for your invitation to attend this landmark event.
This equation was never in doubt. Both Russia and China agree on most foreign policy issues. On Iran, on Syria, on Venezuela and on North Korea. Bilateral trade is also growing. It is expected to reach $200 billion by 2024. I know it sounds like a perfect relationship. The leaders love each other, the foreign policies align, and trade is growing. But you know what? No relationship is perfect. Both Russia and China want more. They want a military partnership. Xi Jinping pitched this proposal during the talks. He said Russia and China must jointly safeguard each other's security interests. How did Vladimir Putin respond? Well, last year he said such a prospect cannot be ruled out, and since then things have moved in this direction. Just look at the timeline. In August, Russia and China held joint military drills. For the first time, Russian soldiers trained on Chinese soil. October, 10 Russian and Chinese warships sailed through the Sea of Japan, again unprecedented. November, 4 Chinese and Russian bombers flew over the East China Sea. South Korea ended up scrambling jets in response. In the same month, China and Russia also signed a roadmap for military cooperation. It runs from 2021 to 2025. So the trajectory is clear. Russian and Chinese militaries are joining hands. We're seeing more joint drills, more joint patrols. But all of this is happening in the Pacific theater. What about Europe? President Putin has deployed thousands of troops near Ukraine. What has China said about that? Well, nothing so far. If Russia is wading into the Pacific, why isn't China helping out in Europe? I can think of a few reasons. Number one, Russia has a 290-year-old Pacific fleet. It's no stranger to this region, but China has no such foothold in Europe. Reason number two, Eastern Europe is on China's wish list. It is their ticket to influencing Brussels, and most of Eastern Europe is wary of Russia's build-up. So there are gaps. Nonetheless, this alliance is bad news for the West. It's basically a two-front threat. Russian troops and artillery in Eastern Europe and Chinese warships in the Pacific, two nuclear powers, two strong armies. What about the other side? Well, you have a reluctant France, a Britain consumed by domestic politics, a Europe divided over China, and then the United States, led by Joe Biden. Can Joe Biden spread his military so thin? Remember, he's also negotiating a nuclear deal with Iran. If that fails, this becomes a three-front threat: Europe, West Asia, and the Pacific. The fact is, Biden cannot break this new alliance, the Russia-China alliance. His sanctions will only drive them closer. So what can the West do? Perhaps play the waiting game. Beneath all of this chemistry, the Russia-China relationship is far from perfect. We are talking about two expansionist powers, two leaders with big ambitions. How long before the bickering starts? China has big plans for Central Asia, but it has always been Russia's backyard. Chinese nationalists make territorial claims in Russia's Far East. Putin will not take kindly to such assertions. You see, an alliance between equals never really works. Take NATO, for example. It works because America is far superior to the other members. It's clear who's boss. Can Russia and China forge such an alliance? They will have to make lasting commitments then, promise to defend each other, align their militaries. It depends on Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping's ego, basically, because chances are they'll both be president for life. And until then, you can expect strong bilateral exchanges. Putin is slated to visit Beijing for the Winter Olympics. Russia is selling gas to avert China's power shortage. It's a strong relationship between two powerful countries. But that power is also their kryptonite, because where there is power, there is ambition and ego. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.